This Game Gear was completely restored, and it now features an IPS 3.1 screen with gorgeous display, perfect sound without crackling, an improved controller, a hull in very good condition, and last but not least, a USB power supply. What a change since I first got it 30 years ago. The Sega Game Gear was released in 1991, and its career lasted 6 years. I got mine the very first year, at a time when the only games available were Columns, G-Lock, Super Monaco GP, Mickey Mouse, Wonder Boy, and a couple of others. But since I had the Master System console, I could play all its games using the Master Gear converter, which became available later in the year. This really useful, I'd even say indispensable accessory was very simple in its principle. It fitted into the cartridge slot, which allowed for Master System cartridges to be placed inside and run directly, without any other conversion than the connector's leads mapped to a smaller scale. This simple trick was made possible because the Game Gear was essentially a slightly upgraded Master System. It had no trouble playing Master System games, but of course in this case it could make no use of its new specific features such as FM sound. Also, the output was resized to fit the Game Gear's smaller screen, which could make some games more difficult to play. The Game Gear was Sega's first foray into the handheld console market, and the only real one if we accept the very limited and short career of the Nomad, which was supposed to become a portable Genesis. Unlike the Nomad, which never really took off, the Game Gear had its shot, and was a real competitor with Nintendo's Game Boy, the Atari Lynx, and NEC's Turbo Express. Sega's unique game library and aggressive price policy gave the Game Gear an edge over the Lynx and the Turbo Express. However, it was unable to surpass the Game Boy, selling about 12 million units by the end of its career 6 years later, whereas Nintendo made 10 times more sales. Though the Game Gear was designed to be technologically superior to the Game Boy, primarily due to its well-lit color screen, its design came at a cost. Where Nintendo's console could run for more than 30 hours on 4 AA batteries, the Sega's one required 6 AA batteries and could only run for 3 to 5 hours. Let's have a closer look at its hardware. The Game Gear contains an 8-bit 3.5 MHz Zilog Z80 CPU, the same as the Master System. It has a 3.2-inch screen which can display 32 colors from a total palette of 4,096 colors, as compared to only 64 for the Master System, at a display resolution of 160 by 144 non-square pixels. The screen is backlit, which allows for play in low-light situations. The system contains 8K of RAM and an additional 16K of video RAM. The Game Gear uses the same Texas Instruments PSG chip as the Master System, but it adds stereo sound through an output for headphones. Aside from the Master Gear cartridge converter, several other accessories were available, such as TV tuner, screen magnifier, or cable to connect 2 Game Gear systems using the same multiplayer game. Over 300 games were released for the Game Gear during its 6-year career, which attests of an undeniable popularity, even though far behind that of the Game Boy. I don't know about you, but back in the day, I was never really attracted to the Game Boy. Playing monochrome games on a poor quality screen in 1991, just like 10 years ago on a Game & Watch console? No thanks. The Game Gear had its flaws, but in some situations, its advantages were obvious. For instance, I remember using it at the hotel during vacations. Here, with its power cable plugged in, it was full and complete victory over the Game Boy. You could play on its wonderful color screen for hours if you wanted, just like if you had brought the Master System along with you. And you could also plug it into your car using a specific adapter. Basically, as soon as you found yourself in a travel situation where you could plug the power in, the Game Boy would lose its only real advantage over the Game Gear. Without the Master Gear, it wouldn't look so good, but this wonderful device changed everything. Just imagine, using a simple converter, you're able to play your entire cartridge library that you accumulated years ago for your Master System. So much money saved as compared to when you have to buy them all over again. And they all work perfectly. Land of Illusion, Psycho Fox, Ghouls and Ghosts, Golden Axe, Enduro Racer, World Grand Prix, Afterburner, Altered Beast, Rastan, R-Type, what could you say? It was amazing. Now, some have complained about the Game Gear's bulky size, but unless you absolutely need to put it in your pocket, it's not a problem at all. It fits much better in your hands than the Game Boy. This is a modern IPS display, but the original was also very good. In any case, it was well beyond comparison with the Nintendo. And with USB, the power issue is completely solved. You can bring along your almost genuine retro console wherever you go and play just like you did 30 years ago. I'm not ashamed to play 1991 Sonic sitting along someone playing his modern Nintendo, Sony, or just his Android phone. To the contrary, in every public transport I've traveled, people around me would say, "Wow, I had the same back then, and what a great one it was." Sweet memories. This is the invincible power of retro. It had become part of you. New stuff, however good, can't compete. It won't make you a child again, but good old retro consoles will. I hope you enjoyed this video. You can support the channel on Patreon to keep them coming. And don't forget to subscribe if not already the case. Write in the comments your wishes for future videos. See you soon, and have nice retro dreams.